So often we think that if we're scheduling things, if we're planning them, that it's going to take away our freedom. But you know what takes away your freedom? A messy pantry takes away your freedom. Now you can't cook at home and you feel like you have no choice but to go out for takeout or keep buying food.
You're listening to the Decluttering Club Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Mueller, and it's my mission to equip women to declutter their homes, their time, and their lives so that they can cherish what truly matters.
In podcast episode 50, I'm going to be telling you about what I call the default mode. See, if you do things the way that you have always done them, you're going to get the results that you have always gotten. And this may seem obvious, but have you really been paying attention to it? Probably not. And why is that? That is because you are operating in the default mode. Now, what do I mean by the default mode? Default mode is like when we are living our lives on autopilot. And this is a very useful thing, right? We don't want to have to think about everything. We don't want to have to make a gazillion choices every single day because our brains would explode, right? That is not efficient. And we want to be able to do things like out of routine, out of habit, right? And I think default, I think about let's say, could be a video game, right? When you install a video game for the first time, or when your kid installs a video game for the first time, the developers, the engineers, the software engineers have made some decisions about different settings, right? So maybe it's a car game and they have decided that the default car is going to be blue and it's going to have 4 doors and it's going to go a certain maximum speed, right? And they've also made all kinds of other default decisions. Now, the first thing that any kid does when they start up and install a video game is they're going to go in and change that stuff. They're going to go in and customize it. They're going to make it fun. They're going to make it, purple or pink or blue or light blue or whatever. They're going to make it their own because that's a fun thing to do, right? Now, this is something that we are often not aware of. And this is because your default mode, let's say when it comes to your kitchen or your laundry or your pantry or something like that. This is probably something that was installed in you from a very young age. Maybe it was installed when you were 7 years old and you were with your mom in the kitchen and she said, this is how we do things, or you just paid attention. And maybe she didn't even do it on purpose. Maybe she got it from her mother, right? So it gets passed on, and these are just things, this is just kind of the way we've always done it, right? This is what we do. This is how we operate. We don't really think about it. Now, the thing is, if we never think about it, then we're probably operating in a manner that is not ideal for us. And again, if we don't like the results that we are getting, then we need to question the default. We need to notice what the defaults are, and then we need to pick new ones on purpose. Okay? Now, the default can serve you very well, right? So if you are perfectly happy with a certain situation, then there's no need to investigate. So maybe you're happy with the way that laundry functions in your house. You're like, yeah, I don't love laundry, but it's not a big deal. We wash the laundry and we put it away and, it's not a problem. Fantastic. Don't worry about the defaults in the laundry area. Same thing with the pantry. Maybe you're like, yeah, our pantry functions. We can cook, we can find things. It's not really a problem. I never really thought about it. Okay, your defaults are serving you well in those areas. However, maybe you say, actually, no, the laundry is not functioning well. I hate the laundry. The laundry is a nightmare. It takes forever to put it away. I have to run out of things before I actually do any laundry. Maybe there's nowhere to put stuff. Maybe things are constantly on the floor. Okay. Sounds like an opportunity to take a look at what are the defaults for you in terms of laundry and then decide if you want to decide if you want to change them, if you want to try something else. So maybe you realize, you know what, we need to go through and declutter some stuff. We don't have a program built into our lives where we go through and weed out the clothes that that are no longer fitting or just aren't really the best choices for us anymore. Okay, cool. Now you know what you need to do. Now you have an action item. If you're in our 28-day reboot program, we will have walked you through that process. But if you're not in that program, or if you're not in the core membership, take some time and add that to your regular schedule. Maybe this is a quarterly thing or a monthly thing where you go through and you just pull out the stuff that is no longer serving you. And then you can make some room, and then you can have laundry be an easier task. Now, that's just one example of something that you might do to switch up your defaults for laundry. But once you make a list of all the different things that are not working, then you can investigate and see, where's the default for that specific problem? Where does that lie? And what can I do to fix it? Let's take another example. Maybe your pantry is a hot mess. You are not happy with the default. You're like, oh my gosh, this is a nightmare. I hate opening the pantry doors. I can never find anything. People are putting back packages that are opened. There's a lot of crumbs. Maybe you're worried about, ants or something like that. Things are going stale. It's hard to put things away, and nobody wants to cook because this pantry just feels horrible. Okay, cool. Now we've identified the problem, right? And you can list out all of those specifics. And I encourage you to do this very systematically, right? So then you say, okay, what are the defaults here? Oh, okay. Well, the default is that, people just stuff things wherever they have room. And so things get lost and things get crammed in there. Okay, got it. What's another default? Well, another default is that we're not doing maintenance on the pantry. Stuff goes in and maybe we use some things, but we never clean it out. And so there's stuff at the back of the pantry. It kind of just floats to the back. That's what happens if you don't do regular maintenance. Things kind of, over time, if you don't use them, they get pushed to the back. Now they're taking up room, but they're kind of invisible, and you wonder why you have a full pantry and also there's nothing to eat in the house, or at least that's what you think, right? Okay, great. Now we know your defaults, and so now you can tackle them. By the way, if you're in the core membership, we have a whole training on how to declutter your pantry. So make sure you check that out. If you're not on in the core membership, join the wait list so we can invite you the next time that we are open to new members. So what would new defaults be in the area of the pantry? Well, maybe you put this on your calendar and it's like, once a week, we're going to clean out one shelf in the pantry. This might seem a little silly, and some of you are resisting this. You're like, I hate having my life scheduled. This sounds horrible. I don't want to schedule a shelf clean out, for my pantry every week. That's your choice, right? Your current default is to not have that. But let me just offer to you that when you start scheduling these things in a way that serves you, in a way that you are willing to do, you will actually discover that you have a lot more freedom. So often we think that if we're scheduling things or if we're planning them, that it's going to take away our freedom. But you know what takes away your freedom? A messy pantry takes away your freedom. Now you can't cook at home and you feel like you have no choice but to go out for takeout or keep buying food. All right, so just consider that when you start to rebel or, react against the idea of scheduling something like that. All right, so you say, okay, I'm going to have a new default. Once a week, I'm going to clean out one shelf in the pantry. Awesome. Write it down, put it on your phone, whatever you need to do to remember that. What other defaults can you put in place? Maybe you think, okay, we need some nice new chip clips so that it's easier to close up packages, right? The ones we have are, half the time they're lost, they're broken, they don't work very well, and they're inconvenient to find. Okay, great. We're going to get some new chip clips. We're going to put them in a convenient place. We're going to remind everybody in the family, hey, don't forget to close that up. Don't forget to close that up. It's going to take some time for people to start using the new default. In fact, it may take a lot of time for people to start using the new default, even if the only person that you want to change is yourself. It's going to take some practice. That's okay. Right? The reason it takes practice is because you're subconsciously or unconsciously executing your current defaults. They are like a well-worn path in your brain. You don't have to think about them. They just happen almost effortlessly. And so if you want to shift out of that effortless, like well-worn path, it's going to be like blazing a new trail. It's going to take some time. Your brain is going to want to shift back into the easy way. And so you're going to have to course correct over and over and over again until the new way becomes the new default, right? And there will be a time, if you stick with it, that you can't even fathom of putting something back in the pantry without closing it up with a chip clip. Or you'll find yourself doing that weekly shelf clean out and it's not a big deal. And you think, oh gosh, I didn't even think about it. I just started doing it. It was so easy, right? So it will take time, but you can get there eventually, as long as you keep going, right? And you may want to help yourself. You may want to support yourself along the way so that you can remember, oh yeah, that's right. I'm doing it like this now. I kind of forgot, right? Just redirect, just correct, and do that new thing that you want to do to maintain that new situation that you're working on in your home. So I invite you to consider this idea of defaults. Where do you have defaults in place right now in your life? And which ones are serving you really well? And which ones do you want to change? Okay, there's certainly things that are working beautifully for you, and there are probably things that are not working. And it's good to notice both of them and then make a plan for the ones that you don't like. All right, let me know about it. I'd love to hear. Leave a comment below this podcast. Love to have you tell us, what's working and what's not, and what you're going to try and do differently. All right, I'll see you next week, everyone. That's all we have for you today. If you enjoyed this podcast, would you leave us a review? It would really help us get the word out. To start your decluttering journey, go to thedeclutteringclub.com. That is declutteringclub.com. We'll see you next time.